Welcome to Musclebox Radio. I'm your host Stephen Box and my co-host is Michael Harrison. This show is going to be all about nutrition, training, bodybuilding with loads of banter. We're going to be giving you the evidence, the science and breaking that down with the help of some amazing guests and industry leaders to give you that application. So make sure you subscribe and I hope you enjoy the show. So this is episode 14 and I've got a quick apology to make. This week we interviewed Martin Macdonald for the show, and anyone who knows Martin knows he does like to talk, as do I. So we are actually going to break this podcast up into 2 episodes, which is great because it is a superb podcast and something that me and Mike got loads out recording. Musclebox Radio, this is episode number 14 now, and we have another special guest this week. Last week we were joined by Richard Hooley. Mike, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm good. You?
Yeah, I'm great. Yeah, so we are now, when this goes out, we'll be 2 days out from our show.
Yeah, we will. We'll be knee-deep in carbohydrates, I imagine. I hope, anyway.
Rather than knee-deep in shit, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're also joined by the legend that is Martin Macdonald.
Hi both, how are you?
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for coming on.
My pleasure.
Took us a while to pin down a date, but we got there.
Yeah. How long has it been? We've been trying to do this? A couple of months?
Yeah. When did we come on the mentorship? June?
Yeah,
June, August. Yeah, so a couple of months.
Yeah. Nice. But yeah, thanks for coming on. So obviously it'd be good.
It's busy to have me. I've been trying to get you, but
that's it. My, you've been pestering me daily on Facebook.
Yeah, but just poking you and getting over to but
Martin, I'm too busy combing my hair, for fuck's sake.
I'm glad you're getting it cut.
What? Because you haven't got any.
Yes, to make me feel better.
Yeah.
Get rid of it.
Martin, I was on your website earlier because I thought I'd do a little bit of stalking first before, obviously,
Cool.
just to kind of see. And obviously, some of your pictures, you got a little bit more hair than you possibly have now. Some of those shots.
Yeah. Where are these? Are these ex bodybuilding ones or are these just old ones?
Just to think where you're,
Where I've got,
when it says about everything you do.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. All the things. Yeah.
Everything I've ever done.
Yeah, that was it. I liked it. It was good. I started reading through the website. Yeah, I enjoyed that. And I have to tuck into some of those blog posts you wrote and stuff, so that'll be good. But and we can share obviously all the links to the guys listening, so we don't have to do a full intro of who you are because they can just stalk you anyway. Which is great about social media these days. You can literally stalk anyone without them knowing.
Yeah.
So who is Martin Macdonald, just for some of the listeners?
So it's funny. I was having a bit of a Facebook joke about this earlier about being a Twitter guru, which one of my esteemed peers once called me. But I've got sort of a relatively academic background. Started off kind of basic kind of degrees, masters, postgraduates in sports science, sport and exercise nutrition, clinical nutrition, and obviously I started competing in bodybuilding when I was about 17. So that's almost 15 years ago now, and I competed about 7-ish times over about 5 years, and until I was 23, I think was my last show. And then in terms of my practice, I went very early into kind of self-employment. I lectured part-time undergraduates, but I was always keen on the kind of practical side. Obviously, as you guys are, it's I kind of walk the walk, as it were. So working with people as well was really what pushed my buttons. And then so I got some cool lucky breaks working with some celebrities or minor celebrities and who said my name on TV. And that's really where I suppose I was able to have a bit of a career as a self-employed young individual working with, people from the general population and those kind of things. And then it's just grown and grown into, Mac Nutrition, my consultancy now, team of, I think, 10 on the busiest day. And then obviously that's now grown into Mac Nutrition Uni, which I'm sure you guys are aware of, obviously. And and so I realistically these days I'm mostly an educator, I suppose. It's my passion, like right back from being a lecturer. I just love teaching. I love public speaking. So partly having an online course isn't the best, but that's why I like doing kind of podcasts with cool people like you guys, just to talk about nutrition, which is, it is my passion. It's pretty much everything I do. At a dinner party, if there's anything other than nutrition spoken about, I just sit in silence. Which is why I don't go to dinner parties. I just stay on Facebook in my comfort zone. But yeah, that's kind of me in a nutshell, I suppose.
It is one of those things when you go to a wedding or something and someone asks, "Oh, what do you do?" and you're like, "Oh, well, I'll coach bodybuilders or whatever I choose to." I don't really have a title, I suppose.
Yeah, I could say that you're the second most successful Macdonald. I think in third you've got sort of Jim Macdonald from Coronation Street. Second is Martin Macdonald, and then obviously at the top you've got Ronald Macdonald.
Ronald, yeah,
Big Ron's killing it.
Yeah, that's quite cool. Maybe I'll use that. Who are you? Oh, I'm the second most successful Macdonald ever.
Just above Jim Macdonald. So
yeah.
But it's funny, if anyone goes, what do you do? You'll talk about nutrition for a while, and then you ask that question back. What do you do? I'm an accountant. Oh, okay.
Ta-da.
Yeah.
Not that there's anything against accountancy, but I have an accountant, and I find it reasonably interesting, actually. Obviously, having a business, but yeah, there are just some of those jobs that you say, and you just go, I don't know what to say now.
It's always a talking point when you say you're a nutritionist as well, because it's like...
Everyone's got an opinion on it.
Oh, should you be eating that? And you think, well, yeah, probably more than you, fatty. Yeah. But, everybody's got an opinion, haven't they?
Yeah. I actually heckled... I haven't been able to say this anywhere in public other than my staff and my family, but I heckled a comedian at Edinburgh Festival on nutrition. I've never heckled... I love going to comedy. It's probably my one other major pastime. And he sort of picked on me in the crowd, and he was like, "Oh, what's your name? What do you do?" And I was like, "I'm a nutritionist." And he was like, "Oh," and went like this. He was quite a skinny, kind of tall, awkward sort of look. He was a really funny guy. Can't remember his name. And he goes, "Oh, well, I'm not feeling too great. Obviously, Edinburgh Festival, you have to do a lot of work. And so I've just been back there and I had a cup of soup. Is that good for you?" And when someone asks you that as a genuine question, you're like, oh man, what a question. How long's a piece of string? Oh, how many almonds can I eat a day? I've been asked by major magazine newspapers, oh, there's this thing about almonds. How many can you eat a day? And I'm like, are you seriously asking? But you've got to be professional. But I'm in a comedy show. So I just literally went, so he goes, I just had a cup of soup. And I said, oh, right. Is that good? And I said, well, by the looks of you probably should have had some protein. Like that, and literally the whole audience was like, ah, and he even clapped me and went, that's the best heckle I've had all festival. I was like, yes, me. But anyway, so it is a cool talking point, isn't it? It's nice that everyone has an opinion in a way.
Yeah.
And if you can be the one in the room who's the one that everyone looks to for the final say, that's a nice feeling. I buzz off that feeling to be. That's why I like being asked to come on podcasts. It's oh, what do you think about this? It's oh, thanks for asking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. So going back to what you said about your first show at 17.
Oh yeah.
So what inspired you to get into bodybuilding and shave your legs, get tanned up, put a little thong on?
Yeah, mad, isn't it? What a sport.
I mean, the sport's grown massively over the last 5 years.
Yeah, yeah.
So, going back to 2013, we're way even beyond that, Yeah. What was your inspiration to get into it?
It's a bit weird, isn't it, really? When you go back then, it's like, why on earth were you doing that at 17 years old? It's funny, actually. I mean, I've been thinking about this recently with a few things relating to... I suppose because I'm in a really good place with my eating and training at the minute, just from a consistency point of view, work-life balance, or work training balance. There's very little life going on, but the and just being able to, because I don't know if we'll go into this at all, but just kind of some of the ways I was coached or led down the wrong path in terms of being not flexible, which I know you guys are massive proponents of. Like, I didn't have any of that, and it's why I'm like, yeah, people like you who are telling people, it's become a bit old hat now, right? If you tell people, oh yeah, you can eat some junk food, they're like, yeah, like, of course, everybody knows that. It's like, no, they don't. There's still loads of people who don't. But for me, it genuinely gave me some eating issues, and I feel like only in the last couple of years I've probably got over those and been able to just maintain what I think is just my, you know, set point, as it were. And I am lucky that I maintain abs relatively easily. But so what got me into it? The reason I've been thinking about it is that I got my first weight set at 12 years old. And I remember saving up for my first book. I don't like reading, but my first book was Arnold Schwarzenegger's Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding. You know
Classic.
that?
It's a classic.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's a classic. I remember saving up for that. I remember going and look it in the library and thinking, I'm gonna buy that one day, sort of thing. Like, it's weird, isn't it? I'm like, what kind of kid were you? But I had my older brother. He was in relatively good shape. He was a lifeguard, a fair bit older than me, and like, I used to just be like, his muscles are so cool, and I just think it's the way I'm hardwired. I just think muscles, the way the human body is made up, physiology, you know, all those kind of things. It's just, for whatever reason, it's the way I was made. I just think it's amazing. So had weight sets then. And then I actually tore my cruciate ligament. This is the real story, is tore my cruciate ligament. I was relatively good at football, completely ruptured it, didn't get diagnosed. So people were just like, just walk it off. That's literally what people said. I completely ruptured it. Ligament off the tendon, bone.
Whatever. Yeah.
Oh, that's bad. That's how much I only do nutrition now, off the bone. And so now I'm completely ACL deficient, never reconstructed. It was just walk it off. Anyway, I was like, what do I do? Trying to rehab, you know, working out and those kind of things, got into weights. And I was a naturally lean person, had abs, went and watched the bodybuilding show, thought, I could do this. I'm naturally lean. Rocked up 2 weeks later to the Dorchester BMBF, like literally did Atkins for 2 weeks, got a bit leaner, already had abs, obviously, and had been sort of like mucking about with weights since I was 12 years old and playing sport. And, you know, like, people can just be, oh, like, he's quite muscular, he doesn't even really lift weights. And rocked up, like, what was it? Pro tan. So I was too pale. I baby oiled before I went on stage, so it completely washed me out. It was horrific. It was the worst experience ever. I didn't place. I was like, this is a rubbish sport. Gave it up. And then a year later, went to Loughborough University, ended up being on a documentary about bodybuilding, and it rekindled my love for it. And then sort of went on till I was 23, realised I was not genetically blessed enough for it. Realised that I was never going to look like Phil Heath, and I'd been lied to. That was not attainable, or it wasn't Phil Heath back then. It was kind of Flex Wheeler. Those
Dorian
kind of
Yates?
wasn't such a fan, actually. Now I'm like, I look at those grainy black and white photos and I'm like, man, that's cool. But he wasn't an inspiration. It was more the big American names, Levrone, etc. So all the people who never won the Olympia, actually, funny. But anyway, so I was like, this is a rubbish sport. I'm never going to get anywhere. So stopped, and then obviously just kept training for me, but didn't want to do the obsessive, I'm going to be hungry every day, not eating nice foods, not drinking milk, not eating bread. And this is what I mean. This is why I think what you guys do is great, because actually there's some sustainability in what you teach, and it would have been a completely different outcome for me, I think, if I hadn't been, you know, when I went on that Sky Discovery Health documentary, I was given a nutritionist, given a personal trainer at whatever I was, 18 years old, And these people still practice today. I still see people recommending this guy's course who coached me back then, and I just think, man, I could out you completely. And he's someone that no one listening to this will ever heard me talk about, because I just leave it be. But because I think it actually might be slanderous. But the flipping nutrition plan he gave me is criminal. It was basically a zero fat diet. So obviously with some of the assisted people he was working with, that's probably all right. Like they don't need to make their own hormones. But I was literally a hormone deficient teenager because of it. I had zero libido, and I know that's going to happen when you get leanish anyway. But I was like that from 14 weeks out. It was horrific. 14 egg whites for breakfast with oats and water, and don't use a microwave. It was horrific. Anyway. I'm ranting now, but that's how I got into it.
Nice. And the thing is, I'm in a few Facebook groups, and I still see things crop up, and I'm like, it is literally not worth my time to post right now, because I'm not going to see the end of my day if I do post. But like you said, for us it's common practice, flexible dieting, if it fits your macros, count your calorie balance, whatever. But it is. To so many people, and we've had a lot of listeners from this who go, oh, actually, I'm going to download your ebook and read it, or I'm going to go and research this a little bit more. And we're like, great, if we can help one person go from having a really shit experience through prep to having a slightly better habits or view on food at the end of their prep, and learn actually, okay, I can get lean, do it sustainably. I've tried diets out there, but as we all have, and there's not one that I've seen the best results with compared to what I'm doing now. I was able to do a show 5 weeks earlier than planned. I'm still in condition. I didn't balloon after my show. It was scary going backstage. People were brought, what are those donuts, Krispy Kremes, boxes ready to have as soon as they got off stage. And then they were just meeting me for the first time going, Steve, where are you going for dinner tonight? And I'm like, I don't know. I haven't booked a restaurant yet. I'll decide. What are you going to eat? Well, I haven't looked at the menu yet. Whereas they already knew. Right, Big Mac first, then KFC, then a shake, then we're going to all-you-can-eat buffet, and then I'm going to have a few more Krispy Kremes.
Well, that's a majority as well, isn't it? We're very much still in the minority, and I think because it is still so prevalent that you get these fucking dreadful meal plans off all these bros, and I think that slowly we are getting there, but you go backstage and the majority are drying out on white wine and fucking haven't had a sweetener in fucking 10 weeks or whatever it is, and it's just you get people come from loads of different coaches, like a wide variety of coaches, and all the meal plans are roughly the same no matter what coach, and you could literally list it now, like you said, the egg whites and the oats. And then 3 hours later, you're going to have your white fish, your brown rice. 3 hours later, you're going to have chicken and broccoli. Now, is that a good coach? I've literally just listed somebody's meal plan. Four cashew nuts at every fucking serving.
Everything has to come in 100 grams, 100 gram green beans, 100 gram chicken.
That's it, isn't it? Same amount of broccoli for 90 kilo male and a 60,
I was talking to a guy in the gym yesterday who's being prepped at the minute, and he's not allowed to eat veg. He's not allowed to eat veg.
Too many carbs, mate.
What the fuck? Green veg.
Because of the carbs?
Yeah. I said, no. I said, well, you must be fucking starving, because I rely on green veg to fill me up. Yeah, I'm really hungry. You will be.
It's funny though, because in a way, we in the evidence-based community will know this to be true, and like you said, it's kind of common hat, but actually they're not really our market. Our market is to help those people who've had an awful experience have a slightly less awful experience, because I can't guarantee you're going to have a great experience when you prep. It's hard work. It's not it ain't no barrel of laughs, but it's certainly a little bit easier than how a lot of people do it. But if we can just sit there in our kind of focus on helping those people have a better experience, see great results, it's gonna be good.
It's still restriction at the end of the day, isn't it? It's a flexible model of restriction as opposed to a rigid. Yeah. So it's still going to come with its own sacrifices, and it does get hard. And obviously, I can attest to that over the last few weeks. What are you expecting? You're trying to get into contest shape. It's not all pizza and cheesecake, unfortunately. It's going to be hard. But
going back to what books you said, Martin, those books you said, I've got this one. The Natural Guide to Bodybuilding.
What's that porn?
Oh, wow. Who wrote that?
This is by Iron Man magazine by Peter Sisko. Looking through it now, it's like, yeah, it doesn't make any sense. And then I've got Joe Wilder's Bodybuilding System by the man himself. Yeah. My inspiration right there.
Some of the routines in those things, like the Arnold Schwarzenegger, like you had the advanced, the intermediate, the beginner.
That's it, yeah.
And it was like 80 sets or something. It was just absurd. And you would try them because it was like, yeah.
And you know that nobody's going in and doing the beginner plan. It's like, why would I do the beginner plan when I can do the advanced plan and get more gains? Like,
exactly.
What is the point of writing a beginner plan?
So, Martin, recently I read your Alan Aragon piece, which I thought was brilliant, actually. Really good. I really enjoyed that. Yeah. So I thought we could probably quiz you a little bit on that kind of... Yeah, what inspired you to write that piece? Was it something that he asked you to write, or something, did he give you kind of free rein and you thought, I'm going to go contest prep with this? Because I've heard you talk a lot more about contest prep, and I don't know whether that fire is a little bit more alight now and you ever think about getting another pair of trunks again, mate. I reckon it's going to happen, you know?
Like, as tempting as it is, well, it's not tempting at all because it's just... But every time I'm posting, like I was literally in a Facebook group about 4 a.m. this morning, and I just sort of went off on one. You know when you get a bee in your bonnet? I just saw some people just being absolute idiots. And, it was like a research-based group. And then they were all talking about their opinion and, well, I'd like to see what subjects they used. I literally wrote, well, read the friggin' study then, you idiot. Like... That's what it's there for. That's what a full text is for. But anyway, so I was like, then this person came in, well, I've been dieting and bulking for 12 years, blah, blah, blah. And I just wrote, well, it's coming up 15 years for me. So I win the bro debate. I put bro bait and the scientific debate. So yeah, but it's like, when I do that, you do get sucked in sometimes to, I could get in shape again. And being in shape sells. Like, I'm sure, people look at you and they're like, boom, I don't care if he knows anything. I just want to look like that. And it is why I stay in shape. I joke to people all the time. I'm like, yeah, I don't train legs because I'm not going to compete again because the size of my arms is proportional to how clever people think I am. And even if they think I'm really clever and they don't care, they're like evidence-based, having bigger arms, I just win. It's like... Oh, they're just the same IQ, but he's got bigger arms. And that's just... People cannot get away from it. It doesn't matter how intelligent they are. It doesn't matter. There must be a secret. It's not the fact that I think it was about 5 or 6 years ago, the performance director for a sport said to me, Martin, just do lateral raises, bicep curls, bench. And he was like, and you will be... the most knowledgeable and also look the most knowledgeable in your field. And I honestly was like, I sort of laughed at the time, and about 6 months later I was like, that's it, I'm doing it. I added in calves as well because I've got all right calves genetically because of my grandmother. And I thought, yeah, if I'm ever in shorts, just long shorts, brilliant. But I don't think I'll go back to competing just because, as you guys know, it is really hard, isn't it? Like when you get towards the end, it is really hard. I do sort of think it would be nice to do it with all of my new knowledge and the flexible approach. Yeah. But and just to see how much nicer it would be. But at the same time, like you guys said, it isn't. Once you get down there, it's not nice. Doesn't matter what you're doing. You just, it's hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you guys look in great spirits to give you a compliment. Like
I saw I went to see Tom Blackman last week for some posing.
Oh, cool.
And he was like, "Oh, you're 2 weeks out now, Steve. How you feeling?" I was like, "Yeah, mate, great." And he was like, "You cunt."
Yes, come.
He was like,
strong.
Because like obviously, if you've seen his series, The Prep, he went through hell to get lean. And I think if when he comes to prep again, he probably says he's always retiring, but I know he'll probably do another show. yeah, it does make it easier. And yeah, of course, I have my down days. Last night, from about 3 o'clock until 7, I did nothing, just laid on my bed. And then I was just like feeling sorry for myself, and I was like, no, I got to do my cardio. So then I got up, went to the gym, did my cardio, came back, ate some food, I was all right. But yeah, for that 4-hour window, I just binged watched the latest series on Netflix. But yeah, like it doesn't happen often. Like if I did a different approach, it could be the other, 22 hours in the day or whatever that I'll be doing that, and that 2 hours of training or work. But yeah, it's not pleasant, is it? Like there are tough days, and emotionally you become a bit of an idiot. There's just so many things, isn't there, that can happen. So getting back to what inspired the piece for Alan.
What inspired that was, it was really cool. Alan sort of said, he dropped me a message and said, Martin, I'd love you to write for Research Review. And he just said, write on whatever you want. And I'd love to have his wording up actually, but he said something like, it can be expository, kind of, what did he say? It can be really research based, it can be chatting, it can be basically calling people out, funny, anything you want. And he just said something like, I know you'll bring it, whatever you write. So I was like, man, that was such a big compliment. It's been on my list of like, in the next couple of years, I'll contact him and say, do you mind if I write for you? It's one of those things. It's a nice honor to write for his research review, right? And so to be asked was cool. And then to basically be given free reign. And it's funny, he was like, he gave me like a minimum word count. And I was like, I've obviously been really busy. There's no way I would have written anything if it hadn't been him. I haven't written anything for myself for ages, and I love writing. And but then I was like, oh man, what am I going to write about? And obviously when you guys were on the mentorship, we had some cool discussions, and like some of the things we might cover today, but it was like they were all just little areas, like the kind of, I call it like the muscle loss boogeyman sort of thing. Like everyone's like, oh, muscle loss, it's guaranteed to happen, or but you're not going to write a long article just on that, or reverse dieting, or even just some of the headline stuff of flexible dieting or meal frequency. And I just thought, man, there's nothing I can write enough on. And then I suddenly just thought, and actually I'll be totally honest, Sarah, who you met, that kind of head of nutrition at Mac Nutrition, she just said to me, why don't you just write about bodybuilding prep? She said, all of these things you want to talk about are encompassed within bodybuilding prep. And she said, you could just write about yourself and then it would be fun. You love talking about yourself. And I was like, that's a genius idea. So that's what inspired it, of all of these topics. Like, this is why bodybuilding is such a cool sport and so interesting for anyone who geeks out on training nutrition. Is every other sport needs training and nutrition, but bodybuilding is the pinnacle of having to get everything right. So anyway, I just went, like myth busting is always fun. So talk about the rubbish that I did do, talk about some of the cool new research, talk about some of the kind of middle ground meal frequency research. I suppose inject some of my own ideas, which I feel, again, when I'm writing for people like you guys and everyone who reads, I sort of think, man, I don't want anyone to read my article and go, well, that was nice, didn't learn anything. Like, I would hate that. I want it to at least go, oh, that's clarified something, or that's new, or that's interesting.
Yeah.
Not just, oh, that was a well-written piece confirming everything I already knew. Like, that's not the writer I ever want to be.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so that's what it was. It was just like, cool topic, I could just go at it. And it ended up being like 3 times longer than I wanted it to be, and I actually had to ask Alan for an extension, but he was very kind and gave me one. But yeah, so that's what inspired it. Definitely not that I want to get back into competing. Thanks, Boxy.
It was a really, really good article, and like I think me, Mike, and the other Team Box coaches, we've been on a lot of CPD courses this year, and we often do walk away thinking, didn't really take much new away from that. It's maybe just reconfirm what we preach, which is good in itself, obviously, because we know we're on the right lines with what we say. But it was one thing that we took away from your mentoringship weekend, that there was a lot of stuff that I was like, okay, that really applies well. That's kind of new. I haven't heard it in that way. Some of the ways you just got my brain to think was great, and actually challenged us. which was really, really good. And that's kind of why, all of us have signed up to your course, really, because we think, if we can constantly learn and educate ourselves from guys like yourself, and Alan been a great resource. I've, been a subscriber to his research review, and in the pinnacle of, like you said, nutrition and exercise is bodybuilding in my eyes. Like, a lot of the science or evidence is done on endurance athletes, or you get a lot on strength athletes, but bodybuilders need it all. They need to do cardio in order to create a calorie deficit. Like, you can do it from diet alone, but cardio is one big factor that does help you, because no one wants to eat 500 calories a day. And, you've then got the strength side of things, muscle hypertrophy, and a bodybuilder's goal is to do everything all at once. They want to be as big as possible, minimal body fat. So, I think it is right for it to sit up there, and it's why it's, such a fascinating subject for people in our field and industry, really. And I would probably encourage a lot of evidence-based practitioners to actually go and do it. Like, maybe be accountable to do a show, because it's all very well, talking about, it's easy to diet using a flexible approach. Please still do it, because until you get down to, silly digit body fat, it is not easy. And a lot of things I think come up, I've worked with now quite a big range of clients who do contest prep, and everyone has had a different problem. And the evidence won't tell you what problems those individuals are going to have. And this is kind of what your mentoringship brought home, was that there are different individuals, and this is how we can work with those, even personalities. So that was a really fascinating, weekend for me, really.
Yeah, it's the most, like I said, coming away from it, it's the most useful thing I've done since I've been qualified. Like, just hands down. Like you said, boxing, every time we go away, it's nice to have some beliefs reconfirmed and stuff like that. But you're often a little bit underwhelmed, but there was just so much, and it was just natural progression to go into MNU, really.
I really appreciate your comments. It's cool when people are as kind of in the trenches as you are, like, kind of learning stuff and taking it away. It has been the mentorship. I can't remember if I told either of you, but it was like the first year we released it was like we struggled to fill it, and then it's just gone. We then released 5 places in 5 weekends in 2016, and they just all gone because of people like you. And I did say right at the beginning, I genuinely believe we've created something special here, but it's kind of getting people like you it's the small group and the discussion, and they're going really in depth with it. And, and I do think it's weird to talk about yourself like this, but I feel like I bring something unique to the table in terms of a mindset of how to think about things. Another podcast, I got an email from Lee Hamilton, Dr. Lee Hamilton. Are you aware of him? And he just emailed me, and he said, I hope he doesn't mind me saying this. I'm sure he doesn't, because it was just like, but he said, when I grow up, I want to be able to explain things as well and as succinctly as Martin Macdonald. And that was the whole email. And I was like, that's really cool. It's just, so the mentorship, like you guys said, for me as well, I was like, when I was competing, then I started working with people. I was a bro. I just sort of gave, I wasn't complete bro, but I was very much like, they needed to fit into a bit of a box. They needed to fit into my sort of template. And if they weren't committed enough, I think if you're prepping someone for a show, they kind of do need to fit into a bit of a, there's no, like you guys said, it's like, it's not all flexible. Like, there comes a point where actually it gets pretty limited, and it's really freaking hard, and there's no cheating, there's no, if you want to be in the best shape of your life. But, then working with general members of the public, I've had to sort of realize, oh man, it's not always their fault. Like, I need to be a coach. And actually their failure is my failure as well. And it's the same when you're bodybuilding coaching, but it's like, I think there's a level of, I can't do this for you. It is freaking hard. Like, there are some things where I just can't find it. For someone else, it's like, oh, let's just extend your diet for another 3 months. Let's take this week off. Oh, you can go on holiday. Like, you make it fit into their life. You don't make them eat chicken and broccoli. But for a bodybuilder, it's like, no, this is the show day, and you do need to be in this much of a deficit if you want to be in shape. So, but yeah, so with the mentorship, I think again that's something massive of being able to work with a wider range of clientele. And obviously now at Mac Nutrition, we're not taking on any clients at the minute. Just an FYI, if anyone contacts us off the back of this podcast, but
we can take them though. We've got
yeah,
We'll have 'em.
go
We'll have
to
anyone. We'll take anyone.
So it's having to work with people again because people know you guys as well, and I think we kind of chatted about this a bit on the mentorship. It's like people know you and therefore they have massive respect for you, but then they're every so often, and this is happening loads with us now because of our Google kind of rankings, is people walking in, no idea who we are, what we're about, no respect, and it's like, oh man, I've got to build respect like from nothing. Like normally people walk in going, this guy's a magician.
Yeah.
I'll do anything he says, and you're like, oh, you need to eat some vegetables, and they're like, no way, that's so groundbreaking. You know, it's like, I've tried every diet, healthy eating doesn't work for me, and then I go, yeah, you need to eat a bit more protein and eat some veg, and they're like,
Martin, you're a genius.
You're a genius. No one's ever, you know, it's like, so anyway, being able to work with different people, the personality profiling stuff obviously we go through, and it's a different ball game when, like, I know you guys are growing at a rate, and it's like you start getting people who, I mean, it's mad, isn't it? When you realise people are non-compliant whilst giving you money, it's like,
Yeah. It was like one of those things recently. I know someone who works in the film industry, and I just said to him, look, if a situation ever comes up and there's someone who needs prep for a cast or, you know, a film role, I'm pretty sure now I'm in a position where I can pretty much guarantee I'll get them in the best shape of their life. Whereas go back 2 years ago, it would have been a case of I wouldn't feel comfortable, you know, taking that person on, referring them out in that kind of stuff. And I think that's great to know your limitations, but you do have to be confident in your own ability, and yeah, it is. So yeah, it's just a big.
Can I just jump back to something you said? Actually, it was about people should do a bodybuilding show. Like it's not necessarily like I sort of. Well, I do agree, but maybe do a photo shoot, whatever.
Yeah,
but I do think, exactly as you said, one of the reasons that I got relatively, I suppose, early success or respect from people, it's like the whole arms thing we were talking about was, you know, I was studying my masters, but at the same time, I was using myself as a subject. I was testing everything. I knew that I could train 2 hours a day on literally next to zero carbs. I could do XYZ on 1600 calories. I could, you know, all of these things, and yeah, some of those are stupid, but I knew they were possible. And you know, I knew what would happen to my body weight if I fluctuate carbs like this or that, or, you know, all of these different things. And then understanding the psychology, the emotional side of it, everything. If someone's just like, they're just a theoretical nutritionist, which a lot of people who I graduated with over the years, people who even colleagues now, and not to disrespect them, but unless they've gone really hardcore with their nutrition, it's like, how do they expect to know what their clients or athletes are going through if they have to be a little bit more, you know, if they're a rugby player and they just kind of can hit the sort of low-hanging fruit and key markers and they get 80% of the benefit with 20% of the effect. But if they get a troublesome athlete, you know, a triathlete who's expending so many thousands of calories but still have body composition issues, they don't realize the level of, you know, mental effort that it takes for them to track. And, you know, people are like, oh, here's your calories and macros, go and do it, with no support. And it's like, they don't understand. So for me, it's like, yeah, even if you're not going to compete, do use yourself as a subject.
Yeah.
Do something crazy. Do a fast for 1 to 3 days. Just do something so that you can talk from N equals 1, or, you know.
Yeah, I wrote a post today about how I think competing, or, you know, stepping on stage, is the survival of the fittest. And, you know, I hear a lot of people go, oh, yeah, but that guy's not in that good a condition, or, oh, I look better than him, or, you know, and they'll make these comments, and I'm just thinking in my head, get and compete against them. Until you do, I would reserve judgment, because actually that person's, whatever shape they're in, credit to them for actually having the, you know, the balls to actually step on stage and do it. But yeah, it's just one of those things. I think it's the emotional aspect, the psychology is why a lot of people pull out. You hear a lot, I'm going to do this show or I'm going to do a photo shoot, and it never actually surfaces because they can't stick to it or commit. I was speaking to a guy the other day who's like an absolute wizard at gambling, and he's a statistician. He provides the stats to people to essentially gamble smart. And he was like, it's literally 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But a lot of people break because of the emotional ties. He goes, the numbers are there. Just follow the numbers and you'll make money.
Oh.
And it is very much like bodybuilding. Execute plan, you will get there, but then the whole, you have this sort of point of self-destruction along the way that, will stop you from doing it. But, so recently you spoke about kind of like a lot of people have always been, or recently anyway, a trend of kind of a slow prep. And, I know we were both at the 3DMJ seminar, and those guys, obviously I work with Jeff from 3DMJ, and they're big advocates of a slow prep. I would say I'm probably more of an advocate of a slower a prep as well, just with my experiences of every year I've dieted for longer, and whether it's that debate of trying to do it slowly to retain more muscle, because then the calorie deficit doesn't have to be as high. That's the general theory behind it, isn't it?
Yeah.
But for me, it's worked out a lot more due to lifestyle, that actually if you give yourself longer, then you can, have a week where someone dies and you have to go to a funeral and you've got to, manage that, and just allows you for those situations to crop up. But yeah, it was really interesting reading your piece on, you could aggressive prep if, I suppose, and I'm sure you'll clarify this, if you had a clear run at your prep, right?
Yeah. Mike, you look like you were going to say something then before I answered.
No.
No, okay, cool.
Musing.
Yeah, cool. I suppose this is one of the things, is just for people to understand, I suppose, what aggressive prep means. And I think when I wrote my Alan Aragon research review article, that's a long name, isn't it? I actually created this Excel spreadsheet, which I was like, man, this is cool. And I basically put in the numbers of what I suppose one of the reasons I'm saying this as well is just to like I've got huge respect for 3DMJ and like you guys. And it's not that I'm saying what they're doing is wrong at all, because actually what they might be doing is very similar, maybe in the last 5, 10, 15 weeks, but it's the bit before that maybe there would be a slight difference, if at all. But the old school, and this is my opinion, obviously, of, okay, the bodybuilding prep is you are going to lose half a pound a week or a pound a week. And this actually came from, on numerous occasions, I think I mentioned this in the article, of prep coaches upping calories because the person was losing too quickly. And I was like, so did they lose like 2-3 pounds? And they're like, oh no, I lost. And it was something absurd. Like they'd lost 400 grams instead of 200 or 300. They were like going for half a pound a week and they'd lost a whole pound, or they were going for a pound and they'd lost 2 pounds. And their coach increased their calories. And I was like, and I said to him, and this person was not in shape. They were just, so their curve was relatively linear. And that's something that I was trying to change some of the axis to show that actually it's a curve. It's like there's a decaying rate. And that's how it should be. The perfect context prep should have a decaying rate of weight loss. If you are losing half a pound or a pound or whatever to begin with, and you're losing at the same rate at the end, you're either not in shape or you're losing muscle at the end. There should be a slight slowdown towards the end. The other thing is you have to bear in mind with weight loss is the changes in body water and glycogen do sometimes mess things up a bit in terms of your calculations, but it's just being aware of those, using your carb ups to understand how glycogen depleted you're getting and those kind of things. But it's a case of, if you are, and this is the other thing, because I talked about DEXA a lot in that study. Now, people going, oh yeah, I reckon I'm about 16, 17%, starting my prep. And it's like, just jump on a DEXA quickly for me, buddy. Oh, 23%, or whatever. I said that in the article, didn't I? That's what I came out as, 23% body fat. That was after, a good long time of not training, eating poorly. But what was weird about that was my body weight hadn't changed a great deal. So I'd literally just recomped negatively in a horrific way. But the recomp the other way was cool. But if you're starting out at 23, 20, I had, some abs at 23% body fat. So let's say I was 25% or someone else is 25%. Them going to aim to lose half a pound a week at the beginning of that prep, in my opinion, and I'm talking about physiology here, not the psychology of it, just flip and get it done. The rate of lipolysis, the amount of fat that you can burn, means that you could easily lose weight faster. And therefore, if you can handle the hunger, if it fits in with your lifestyle, blah, 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 you will be dieting for a short amount of time. You could ease off later, you could have a longer break, you could do whatever, but actually just get it done to begin with. And actually, when you jump into a diet, you're coming off the back of either maintenance or excess calories. You feel great, testosterone's high, you just feel good. So actually, get in there, go at it hard, and actually you could do what you were going to do in 8 weeks in 4, or in 10 weeks in 4. And your training intensity, I don't know if you guys have ever come across, this is a bit old school, but something called the ABCDE protocol, the anabolic burst cycling of diet and exercise protocol. Ever come across that?
No.
It's like, it was big, I think it was around like T Nation or bodybuilding.com or Avant Labs or one of these some of these old school forums. But basically it was a case of you diet for 2 weeks, you maintain or bulk for 1. You diet for 2 weeks, you bulk for 1.
Like a blast and cruise approach.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, anabolic burst cycling, like blast and cruise pretty much. And but you can flip it on its head. Bulk for 2, cut for 1, bulk for 2. And it's, it had some bro in it, but it was cool in terms of, oh yeah, I'm gonna cut off the back of a 1 week calorie excess. And the calorie excess is minor, but you've been not hungry, you've been in an excess, and then you back into a big deficit and you nail it. So anyway, yeah, this is my thing of like, actually, if you use the curve that I outlined, you can diet much quicker to begin with, and then
ease off the gas a little bit at the end.
Ease off the gas, and then you need to. When I think some of the rates I calculated, if you, I suppose, zoom into the article on Alan's review, you're down to about a maximum fat loss of something like.
And make sure you stay tuned for episode number 2, which will be out next week. So luckily, you don't have to wait too long.